Alright guys, and here we are. Game number 2 in the grand final, and we're on Mongolia. We've got Optimus versus Ezad in the Two Towns tournament for the ESOC Grand Tour Season 3, so the 2022 tour. So Optimus going for British in his game 2, Ezad on Chinese. So we had a Spanish versus Ottoman game last game. Ezad winning on his Spanish. So Ezad, he's opted for Chinese this time. Optimus on British. So Mongol scouts for both our players as well on this map. Quite a good number of treasures and herdables actually. There's plenty of yak out in the field. Obviously with these civs it's not really a big deal. They don't really get any benefit, but if it was someone like Japanese or Indians or civs like that, they get quite a boon out of a map like this with so many herdables on it, because the Japanese can basically rally the herdables under any shrine that's not at the capacity of huntables on it, while Indians can use them, well, just have them sitting around generating XP, or even have them tasked to their livestock pen building, their shrine one, generate that XP a little bit faster. And then they can also train the cows on top of that and generate even more XP than they'd otherwise would. So Optimus, having moved his second town centre a little bit back. Ezad's moved his as well, but not as far. But I mean, the difference is pretty negligible, so I don't think it'll really be like a difference in villager. I haven't really been keeping track of what eco-techs our players been getting this game, but for Ezad it'll be none so far, considering he's got no market. But he's already sent northern refugees because with two villages and 2 town centres, that's already a 4 villager card. Obviously, you could go for up to a 5th village and throw it down, but by then he's sort of having to invest even more, because it'll cost more wood for a village than it would food for a villager. And on top of that, you gather wood slower than you do food at this stage of the game. So Optimus this time is going for the earlier trading post. So last game we saw Ezad take one quicker than Optimus, and then he was lucky enough to be able to snipe Optimus's one fairly early on in the game. And Optimus was actually able to destroy Ezad's first, bonus town center, but it was in vain in the long run. So this game, be interested to see how this goes down. So again, not really able to see what techs Optimus has got. Like, the moment you've had a patch, it seems to absolutely wreck all the replay intel with techs. Still get access to cards though, which is nice. So Virginia Company, cheaper manos, and I think it actually reduces their build bounty as well. So the kill XP still stays the same. Oh, and that's scout being sniped there actually by Ezad early on. So Optimus, did Ezad lose his scout as well? No, he's still got it. So Optimus bleeding a tiny bit of XP there, but it's nothing major. I suppose the scout would be useful in trying to take this, because the Explorer hasn't got a huge amount of health. So Ezad, if he was still up here, if he could still see this, I don't think he can. Well, he can actually. I was going to say, he could have actually come back, and I think he'd be able to take that fight. But Optimus is going to be able to take this. 75 coin. Ezad instead getting 120 wood. But his Explorer is going to go down, so this is a little bit rough here. He didn't actually sort of micro balancing his... Well, actually, I don't think you can. I think the Treasure Guardians basically... It's very hard to actually try and leash them and actually have them then switch targets. So Ezad perhaps might have been better off actually going back and dealing with the Explorer of Optimus there. Like, he had vision of it. And as much as, yeah, this wood treasure, definitely worth more than the gold treasure at an extra 30 value in it. But, you know, he's now lost his Explorer. Doesn't give his opponent anything, but it does hold him up now, and he's not going to get the chance to be able to kill William Bath just yet. He's going to now pinch another treasure, because his cooldown will be up soon. So got Exploration Age kicking in for Ezad, a little bit quicker than it does for Optimus here. And he's gone for the Summer Palace. So the Summer Palace will automatically train units that you've got enabled from your War Academy. So he's taken the War Academy as well. He'll be able to get units out of that. But it is going to take about 6.5 times as long as a regular army to produce before he gets some upgrades for that. I think you can actually send cards to speed it up. Could be wrong, but yeah, I thought there was some cards you could spend to actually speed it up, or take an upgrade, sorry. Either way, looks like this treasure is going to go to Ezad, and he's not going to stick around because I think while he could get one or two of the either one of these, Disciple and the Hero, I don't think he could get both. But he is gonna try and bait Ezad to come back home, because if Optimus can get the Hussar out, he might be able to pick off. And saying that, there's already a whole bunch of Step Riders here for Ezad. So he's shipped that card to get the 7 of them. Quite powerful this early on, until the British player can get some muskets. Or some of his own Hussars. So he's had to go Militiaman, losing a couple of Ills in the process, but one of the Step Riders, 2 of the Step Riders falling there, I think. No. How many's there left? 4. So 3 of them in total being killed off. Actually, the Mongol scouts padding the numbers. A lot of houses out on the map here for Ezad. And unlike the villages, you can't garrison in them, so having them out that far is a little bit dangerous. Obviously with British, they do want to build them as soon as possible, no matter where they're gathering, and that's a nice snipe there. Ezad's Hero and Monk going basically for free to Optimus, but now he's actually run his Hussar into the army of Ezad, so this isn't so great, because I think these pikemen will be fine to clean this up. Actually, take that back, it may just be enough for Optimus. So he's actually rushed Hussars into a handful of pikemen, and he's managed to get away with it. There's some more pikemen on the way in. Ooh, and the Chukonyu nearly getting another Hussar there. And I think if they had it on XP, it probably would have been worth it for Optimus. I mean, worth it for Ezad there. Thought that might have been a bit risky. Because, I mean, the Hussar are stronger, but they are a bigger investment than the pikemen as well. Ooh, and this is nice for Ezad. Not so nice for Optimus. These houses just off being built. And I think one of these villages... Ooh. So Ezad having to back off. Not able to kill the villagers, but it does at least delay the villager production out of those houses. Because being British, Optimus actually wants to try and get as many houses as possible early on. Just because being British... Well, up to 200 pop anyway, and then maybe even a couple extra. Being British, he's going to get an extra villager every time he throws down a house. So pretty handy to have happen. The only downside is, I mean, these houses, they don't give him the full build XP, but they still give his opponent the full kill XP. So there is a trade-off to shooting up past the normal house count while getting... you know, this many town centers, or even going up to 3 town centers. You know, and realistically having 220, 230 pop worth of houses. The risk is, you know, if Optimus has these sniped by Ezad, he can really start to bleed a lot of XP. Give Ezad a lot of easy shipments. But obviously it can work as a bit of a double-edged sword if Ezad's investing too much into siege or pikes to try and take it down, or wasting his time taking it down. So Optimus, huge Hussar army here to harass, but this time Ezad's got a mix of cav, spears, and still some more Chuko, so I think he should be able to deal with this, although there's a nice mix of English infantry here now. British infantry, sorry, with longbows and muskets. They should never fight on the town centre if you can help it, so Optimus backing off for now. Oh, and these Keshiks. Nice cavalry addition to the army, so I think they'll be really useful against the Hussars. And we've got some red codes here for the Chinese player, so the consulate being used. No discounts on it, but he's opting for British troops, so he gets a land bonus. I think it's just bonus health on his land units, 7% or something like that. We've got a raid attempt going on here, but Ezad forced to have to hightail it. But he's come in with some more step riders behind this, so this is really crafty because he's actually baited away the defending Hussars of Optimus, and he's still got some more step riders here to at least deny some gather time. Although it's not quite enough to really get a lot of villager kills, they sort of need to focus down the vills with only the 2, because they will die to that many vills. Meanwhile, Ezad forced to have to garrison himself here, because Optimus on the offensive. I think he's had his Minutemen just parked up here, and he's managed to get one of the step riders. Down here, another couple Vil kills going to Ezad. But Optimus pressuring that town centre, and I think he might have enough to be able to really zone Ezad while he at least maybe takes the village rather than the town centre, because at least it's not going to shoot back, and it'll die a little bit faster. Still has plenty of villagers garrisoned in it, but Ezad, a couple more units streaming in, so he's now going to be able to pressure Optimus, who's got to come back to try and rescue his longbows, but these guys have really nice range. I think they might even slightly outrange the Chuko news. Typical British and English with their bullshit archer units. It's just an Age of Empires thing. Every British civ and English civ's like that. But Step Rider versus Hussar, I think the Step Riders are nowhere near the value on even numbers. So yeah, the Hussar's able to really clean them up before there's any real Vil deaths there. But Ezad getting his Vils out there at least. But in the meanwhile, Optimus is going to try and take down the town centre, forcing Ezad to use the double town defence here for both sentries and irregulars. So these guys 1-to-1 are quite a strong unit, but they don't give away any XP to kill, but they will bleed health, so they're really only like a last defense sort of unit. They do cost a bit of gold as well. So Optimus again really able to pressure Ezad's town centre. But the longer he sticks around here without killing the TC, the more value it's going to get Ezad as a static defense, because it will actually kill a couple of muskets, but at the same time it's a lot of Vils to have garrisoned when you've got 57 and 55, I mean 15 of them are actually garrisoned. It does take away from your eco quite a bit. So got a bit of an engagement going on down now. So Optimus really putting the pressure on Ezad, and I think he might have the units to do this. He went into this fight about 155 pop, and he's still up on Ezad by about 30 pop at the moment. He just has a couple of bows, unfortunately focusing the Summer Palace, which is not that great for him. So Ezad with a bit of defender's advantage in the sense that his opponent doesn't have all the units focusing on the fight. So here we go, some of the longbows now retargeting, taking out Chuko News and Redcoats. Basically no front line left for either player at the moment, but a couple of Iron Flails and Meteor Hammers now joining the mix. Let's be a bit of a pain in the ass for the back line for Ezad, for Optimus, who's going to have to flee from Ezad's force now. So I think he might have overstayed there, and it was a bit unfortunate that he had some units not taking focus on other units in the fight there. Because, I mean, that's another 440 damage that could have gone into that fight. Really made the difference between before these cavalry hit the field. Because now a lot of muskets are going to get taken out. I wouldn't say for free, but in a much better spot for Ezad than what would otherwise happen here. And now Optimus trying to turn things around because he's on his own doorstep now. He's no longer on Ezad's. So population-wise, Ezad's really started to spring up ahead of Optimus, who's still trying to fit in some eco-techs behind this. Because he is falling behind on score, but he really needs to try and catch up on army at this point, because I think his town center here is under a lot of threat. So now, Optimus fighting with the defender's advantage. Hasn't got anything garrison in the TC just yet. Ooh, and Ezad's managed to catch Optimus trying to gather a little bit greedy over here. I mean, there's a hunt over here that he could have been on, but he's tried to get on in this hunt over here of his opponents just to try and bleed him of a little bit of food at this stage. And this could be a costly mistake because he's bled 3 or 4 villages out of this, and it's really given away that he wanted to wall this up and try and get on this hunt as well, whereas he probably could have just stayed on these two, been nice and secure and gotten away with the wall off. A bit risky gambit there, but I mean at the same time I suppose he doesn't want to run out of hunts like he did last game, where I think Ezad definitely was a little bit lucky with the food eco, as well as was able to pinch one of the hunts quite close to his base early on in the game. But I suppose that's the risk you take. So now Optimus tapping out before the fight even goes down. GG, guys.